It was a bitterly cold December night, the kind that pierced through layers of clothing and seeped into the bones. Marcus, a middle-aged security guard with weary eyes and a kind heart, paced the perimeter of the sprawling shopping mall he was tasked with protecting. His breath formed clouds in the air as he clutched his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. Marcus didn't mind the solitude of the night shift. In fact, he preferred it. After losing his wife to an illness 5 years ago, the quiet hours gave him time to reflect, even if it meant grappling with loneliness. His life had become a cycle of work, home, and restless nights. But tonight was different. As he rounded the corner near the mall's loading dock, his ears picked up a faint sound. It wasn't the hum of distant traffic or the rustling of wind through the sparse trees. It was softer, almost imperceptible, the sound of muffled sobbing. Marcus froze, his flashlight's beam steady as he scanned the area. He spotted movement behind a stack of wooden pallets. Approaching cautiously, he called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" The sobbing stopped abruptly. For a moment, all he could hear was the pounding of his own heart. Then, a small, trembling figure emerged from the shadows. It was a girl, no older than 10. Her hair was matted, her clothes torn and ill-fitting. She hugged her knees tightly, her lips blue from the cold. "Hey, it's okay," Marcus said gently, lowering his flashlight so as not to startle her. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl looked at him with wide, frightened eyes, but didn't speak. Marcus noticed her hands were red and raw, her bare feet peeking out from under her thin, torn leggings. She was shivering uncontrollably. "You're freezing," Marcus said, shrugging off his heavy jacket. He draped it over her small shoulders. "Let's get you somewhere warm, okay?" The girl hesitated, but eventually nodded. Marcus led her to the security office, where he switched on a small space heater and handed her a cup of instant hot chocolate. She clutched it with both hands, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "What's your name?" he asked softly, crouching down to her level. "Lily," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Lily, where are your parents?" Her face crumpled, and tears spilled over her cheeks. "I don't know," she sobbed. "I've been looking for them, but I can't find them." Marcus felt a pang of sorrow. He wanted to press for more details, but could see how fragile she was. "It's okay," he said. "We'll figure it out. For now, you're safe. You can stay with me tonight." Lily's tear-streaked face lifted, and for the first time, she looked at him with a glimmer of trust. Marcus knew he couldn't leave her out in the cold, but he also realized that taking her in was just the beginning of what might be a complicated journey. As the night stretched on, Marcus watched over the sleeping child. Her small form was curled up on the couch, still wrapped in his oversized jacket. He couldn't help but wonder who she was, where she had come from, and what had led her to this lonely, freezing night. Unbeknownst to him, the answers to those questions would unravel a story far more shocking and tangled than he could ever imagine. The morning sun crept through the blinds of Marcus's modest apartment. He'd brought Lily home in the early hours, realizing the security office wasn't a suitable place for a child to rest. Now, as the smell of brewing coffee filled the small kitchen, Marcus watched her from the corner of his eye. She sat at the table, clutching a slice of toast as though it might disappear. "Do you remember anything about where you're from?" Marcus asked gently, sitting across from her. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but knew time was critical. Lily stared at the table, her small fingers picking at the crust of the bread. "I was with my mom," she said finally. "We were staying in a place with lots of other people. Then she told me to hide because someone was coming. When I came out, she was gone." Marcus's chest tightened. "Do you remember what the place looked like? Or where it was?" "There were big buildings," Lily said, her voice wavering, "and people sleeping on the ground." Marcus's mind raced. It sounded like a shelter or a homeless encampment. He made a mental note to check the nearby areas after his shift. For now, he needed to make sure Lily felt secure. "Okay," he said with a reassuring smile. "We'll figure this out together." As the day wore on, Marcus noticed subtle things about Lily that didn't quite add up. Her speech was articulate, almost too refined for a child who'd been living on the streets. She also seemed to flinch at sudden noises, her eyes darting around the room as though expecting something or someone to appear. Marcus's instincts told him there was more to her story than she was letting on. By evening, he decided to contact a trusted friend, Officer Jenna Collins, who worked in the local precinct. She had a reputation for handling delicate cases with care. "I've got a situation," Marcus explained over the phone. "There's a girl, Lily. I found her outside the mall last night. She's scared and doesn't know where her mom is." "Bring her in," Jenna said without hesitation. "We'll keep her safe and start looking for her family." Marcus hesitated. Lily had only just begun to trust him. Would taking her to the police undo that progress? Still, he knew it was the right thing to do. "All right," he said, glancing at the child, now dozing on his couch. "We'll come by in the morning." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. His thoughts swirled with questions. Who was Lily? Why did she seem so frightened? And why did he feel an unshakable sense that her story was far from ordinary? As he stared at the ceiling, a nagging suspicion crept into his mind. Someone might be looking for her, and not necessarily for the right reasons. The next morning, Marcus carefully explained to Lily that they were going to meet a friend who could help. Her small hand clutched his as they walked into the precinct. Officer Jenna Collins greeted them with a warm smile, but Marcus could see the cautious curiosity in her eyes. "Hi, Lily," Jenna said, kneeling to meet the girl's gaze. "We're going to do everything we can to help you find your mom." Jenna took Marcus aside while another officer gently spoke with Lily. "She's scared," Marcus said, "but there's more to her story. I can feel it." Jenna nodded. "We'll run her description through missing persons and see if we can find anything." Hours later, the breakthrough came. A woman matching Lily's description had been reported missing weeks earlier, along with her daughter. The case was linked to an organized crime ring involved in human trafficking. Lily's mother had been found, but she was in a hospital, recovering from injuries sustained while trying to protect her daughter. When Marcus heard the news, his heart sank and soared simultaneously. He knelt beside Lily, who was clutching a stuffed bear an officer had given her. "Lily," he said softly, "they found your mom. She's safe, and she's been looking for you." Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. "Really?" she whispered. "Really?" Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're going to see her soon." The reunion at the hospital was both heart-wrenching and uplifting. Lily's mother sobbed as she embraced her daughter, thanking Marcus over and over for saving her little girl. "You're a hero," she said through tears. "No," Marcus replied, his voice firm but humble. "I just did what anyone should do." In the weeks that followed, Marcus stayed in touch with Lily and her mother, helping them navigate their new start. The ordeal had brought back some light into his life, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. And for Lily, it was a chance to rebuild her childhood, safe and loved. One evening, as Marcus returned to his quiet apartment after a shift, he found a hand-drawn card in his mailbox. Inside was a picture of a man in a security uniform holding hands with a little girl under a bright sun. Beneath it, in shaky letters, were the words, "Thank you for being my hero." For the first time in years, Marcus smiled, a genuine smile that came from a place of healing and hope. He realized that sometimes the smallest act of kindness could ripple into something far greater, changing lives in ways he'd never imagined. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's spread the message of hope, kindness, and the extraordinary power of compassion. Together, we can inspire more acts of goodness in the world.